Oh hey, welcome to another edition of hand-laid tracks and 3D printed things with Socrates. Today we're looking at President Lincoln's log house. In America we have a thing about President Lincoln growing up in a log house, so I built a log house with working doors and windows. And it comes apart pretty easy too. So it definitely comes apart pretty easy. This is basically President Lincoln's log house, and I made it, thought it would be an interesting project. I kind of like the way it came out. It's really quite satisfying. It comes apart quite nicely as well. Basically, there's only a few different pieces. There's short, medium, long, and huge logs, and then there's half sizes also for those pieces as well. And you can make a square, a rectangle, a T-shape, or an L-shaped house. I'm sure there's more, but that's basically what I've played with at this point. This is a little video showing the square house. Basically, to build the house, you start with half logs on one direction and full logs in the other direction. And you just kind of go around and around and build it up pretty quickly. It's 3 logs for a window, 5 logs for a door. Windows and doors both have a little lintel on the top, and it holds them in place. So once you've gotten to the stage where you can put the windows and doors in, they don't fall out, which they used to do. Very annoying. And this way, at least, it's nice and secure when you put the doors and windows inside the walls, and you continue building up. Easy to change as well. If you want to change out a window or a door, you kind of pick up both logs on each side of it and slip it in and out. It should work pretty easily. A little fiddly if worst case scenario. The top's covered with a roof truss, has angles to hold it in secure, and this gets a little fiddly because the bottom parts have notches and the top parts have an angle, and the middle parts both have little securing tabs on them, and you have to make sure that you get that bottom piece all the way pushed into the notch. It's a little bit tight, but it makes it secure, and the whole thing had a tendency to be a bit fiddly and fall aparty, and with the roof locked together like that, it makes the whole thing a bit more secure, and I kind of like that in the end. And when you print it, the doors and the windows have supports needed because they're basically hanging in space. I think I use around 12% support. You can see it's not very full. And to get the supports off, I use this long nose pliers and basically grab them in the intersections and twist it a little left and right and try to crack, crack, crack. It slowly removes all the different supports from behind it. And over time, you can kind of feel it getting looser and looser. If you pull it off too soon, you end up with a piece hanging off. It's just a lot more messy, etc. It takes a little more time this way, but with a little bit of patience, it clicks and clicks, and all of a sudden the whole thing comes out, and it comes out nice and clean, and you got a nice door or window with no supports. Now, do not pull the handles. You have to push it from behind, because on mine anyway, the prints are pretty darn secured to the doors and windows are pretty secure to the frame, so you have to give it a good little push to crack it free. But once it's free, it's loose. They have a little bump hinge on the ends, the same as I did with my Halloween bat. I like the little hinge. It's a nice little hinge system. It's a little knob and a ball around it, so it works pretty well. They're quite secure. The doors and the and windows are both using the same thing. There's a regular full-size door and a Dutch door, so it's a 2-piece door, and the windows are also in side to side as opposed to one solid window, and they both come in the same set. And there's also, with a 90-degree roof, you can make the long L shape or the long house into an L shape. And this is it just seemed like something I thought it should do. There's a lot more work to get this to work out this way. The rectangular house is the same as the square house, but has a long roof pieces, and again, it comes apart relatively conveniently. The main difference with this is the fact that there's the side pieces on the angled roofs, and that takes definitely a little more work to get to fit together. So I arranged all the pieces, got it all nice, and I wanted to count it so I know how many pieces were all for making each different things. In this case, the L shape is in this case, the L shape is 48 small, 18 medium, 6 large, 3 trusses and 1 90-degree truss, as well as 2 of the half-size mediums and 1 half-size large, and 1 chimney and 1 smokestack as well. And then depends on how many doors and windows you want to put into it. And again, it's the same basic idea: half logs go in one direction, full logs in the other direction, and you start building up around it. Doorways go over the half log and have 5 logs to the side. Windows go over 2 logs and have 3 logs to the sides. So they both end up at 5 each. And I put 2 on top of that. I guess you could do with less, but I put 2. I thought it was more structural. It looked a little better. And then the roof trusses go on top of that. And then I found the side angles, especially just doing this video, that they're definitely kind of tricky to get together because I wanted it to be structural. I could make it a little more loose, but this way it holds together nice. And once it's done, I thought it was better that the thing doesn't just fall apart at a touching of it. And so I think it's easier if you start with the notched base pieces on the roof and then do the work up from there. But you can see here I've gotten head back to the stage of putting in doors and windows. 5 for the doors and 3 for the windows. Again, the lintel goes on top. The doors have a nice little set of stairs going out. I thought it kind of was necessary to have how to get into it without some steps. And so you can see the lintels go on the top of it. And you can print single window or double windows as you like. And then some more go on top to make the whole thing secure. It's a fun little project. I like building it. It's somehow satisfying as a finished piece. And if you make some mistakes, it's pretty easy to go back and change things, so don't worry about making little mistakes. Yeah, see the side 90 has its own half log attached to it. So that's one of the things that you'll notice, that the side with the 90-degree roof kind of seems a bit shorter because the roof truss itself has its own half log attached to it. And again, make sure you notch the notches go on first. Make sure they're all the way pushed in because they are a little bit tight to get in there. And if it goes in right, it should all snip in pretty cleanly. And again, here I was doing the notch second on the half roof, and I think it's easier to do it first because you can see it doesn't fit that easily inside of it. And if you drop a piece inside, it's better to have someone with little tiny fingers. And I didn't have anyone to help me, so I had to do it all myself. That's why it's nice to have kids. And again, I think it's easier if you do the bottom notch pieces first and maybe build the whole thing up because they all sort of need to be keyed inside. But once they're in there, you can see that it's nice and secure. And the top pieces either have a chimney or they don't, but they do have a little angle that holds them against each other. And the chimney has its little insert. I think it's kind of reminiscent of an old English cottage. Something out there in the woods. And that's the L shape, and the T shape is basically the same, except has to have a second side to the back, and it has as a huge log instead of a long log in the back. And I put 2 chimneys because I figure it's such a large house, probably want to have 2 fireplaces in it, if you know what I'm saying. And again, they all kind of come apart the same, and it was fun to mess with it and satisfying to take apart. I gotta say, it comes apart quite, especially the little one. That thing came apart real cleanly. I didn't have a rug to drop it on or whatever, and I was only working on my desk, so I was trying to keep it consistent. I didn't want it going all over the floor. But the T-shaped one has more pieces to it. It has 60 small, 31 medium, 1 huge, 3 half mediums, 1 half huge, 3 trusses and 2 90-degree trusses, as well as 2 sets of side roofs and 1 set of long roofs. And you can see it's quite a bit of printing in the end. So if you're making this for somebody as a gift, you definitely want to start printing early, because for me, each one of these print pieces took a couple hours or an hour, about an hour a piece. I use adaptive printing between 0.16 and 0.3 millimeters. It's as fast as possible, yet still making it not look bad, because in the end you just print it once and have it for a long time. So it takes time to print it, but same token, you get it done and there you are. Now the doors and the windows, I use color change at about 2 layers before the face finishes. I change the color from the brown to the tan in this case, and at that first layer where the frame starts, you switch back to brown. It leaves a little line through the part, But I think it looks a whole lot better with the colors, the two colors on the doors and the windows, and also did the roof truss as well, the face of the roof truss. It's the same basic principle again and again. Use it in the slicer program. You set up your slicing. In my case, like I said, I use adaptive layers between 0.16 and 0.3. And then you slice the part, and then you go into the slicer and you check the layers, changing layer by layer until you get to the layer that you want it at. Like I say, about 2 layers short of the face. And then you mark that number down and you add a color change code inside. And I use Simplicity 3D, and in the post-processing under scripts tabs, you can add color change, which I've explained, and it's written in the comments. I'll put the actual code. You can cut and paste it in there, and you just add the layer that you want the color to change in 2 places, in the front and the back of the code. And so at that point you would put 2 layers short of the face, so it turns to tan, and then the first layer where the framing starts, you change again a second color change code back to brown, and that's how you get 2 colored faces with any printer, just using a color change. And you can see in the doorway and the window where the color changes is that one little bit of tan color going through it, because you change the whole print color at that point. And again, we're back up to our 3 layers at the windows, 5 layers at the doors. In goes the windows and the doors. Top of that, your lintel pieces. And then we'll be doing our roof once again. And again, the roof, it's a little fiddly to get on, but it definitely holds the whole thing securely in place. I think start with the short pieces on the sides, and then work your way up layer by layer. Put the short pieces on the long, second pieces on the sides, and they're the ones that have a second notches. The base piece of the short has a full notch, and there's a little tiny notch underneath it for the truss to go around. And that's the beauty of 3D printing and using, in my case, SketchUp. And you can see on this one, I didn't quite get the one end in all the way, and it's going to make it difficult to get the roof on. And it took me a few minutes to figure out where it is. And it's also very easy to get these backwards. I mean, I designed the thing, and I keep getting these pieces backwards. You can see I did it again there. Nope, that's the notch is upside down. You gotta flip the notch around. There you go. Like I said, life is always difficult. You learn by doing. And again, I'm trying to get the notches in first. It's still a little fiddly this way, though. I gotta say, it's not easy to get this roof in. I've debated making it easier, but it locks together so nicely that in the end, I think it's more advantageous to have the thing locked together and keep the whole piece secure. And then you can see where I put this in here, it doesn't really want to fit. And there's a reason it doesn't want to fit. And that's because something's not right. And because it definitely fits together. So if it's not fitting, something's wrong somewhere. And it turned out that notch wasn't all the way in. It looks in. You can see it pushes in deeper, and now everything fits together like it should. Again, these kind of key in underneath the one above it, so it might be easier to do it one at a time, layer by layer. In that case, this one has a chimney and the other one does not. Once again, little pieces with notches, little pieces without. I thought it was a really cool project. I'm going to give some away for a couple friends of mine that have kids. I don't have kids, I just have a 3D printer. And if you like it, it's there on Cults. It's going to be available in the deluxe version with all these, as well as just a simple version with the square if you just want a simple one. And so that's your President Lincoln log cabin house, and doors and windows open. I thought it was a fun project. I hope you liked it. Check it out on Cults. Thanks for watching. Handley Tracks doesn't have a theme song, doesn't have a theme song, doesn't have a theme song. Handley Tracks doesn't have a theme song, doesn't have a theme song still. Handley Tracks doesn't have a theme song, doesn't have a theme song, doesn't have a theme song. Handley Tracks doesn't have a theme song, doesn't have a theme song still.